Hello there guys and welcome to another episode of Genuine Chit-Chat. This week I'm joined by Tom and Luke of Royals. Now, if you aren't aware, Royals are a pop-punk band located down south near where I live. Tom Guildford is a long-term friend of mine. He's actually been on a few episodes of Genuine Chit-Chat in the earlier days. I think it was the first 50 episodes or so. He came on twice, one of which was to speak about The Room, which is hilarious, so make sure you go check that out too. And Luke Smithson, he's the singer and frontman of Royals, while Tom is the bassist, and Tom's one of the newer members. And this is going to be part one of our chat. So part two will be released next week, but anyone who supports Genuine Chit-Chat on Patreon already has access to both parts in one unsplit release. So in part one, we speak about how the band is different to other bands Tom and Luke have been into, how they put their covers together, what pop punk actually means to each of them, the favourite part of being in the band, and then how lockdown has affected their EP release, as well as lots of other things as well, including the music video and song meaning of a recent single, Jaded. In the description there are links to Royals on Spotify, as well as their custom Spotify playlist, which includes some of their music and some of the other music of bands they've been associated with as well, and also in the description is their website and their various social medias too. Now for clarity, this episode is released the 6th of the 6th, 2021, and their EP is getting released this coming Friday on June 11th, which is the EP we speak about in this chat quite a lot. And part two of this chat is going to be released just after their EP is released, so next Sunday. So I've timed it, I think, quite well, where part one's getting released and then their EP and then part two. So make sure you do check out their full EP when it gets released. I managed to listen to it a bit earlier and it is excellent. I really recommend people, whether or not you're a big fan of pop punk or not, just give it a go. It is really cool. I'll be back at the end to talk to you guys about what's coming out in part two, other stuff I've been involved with recently, and a few other relevant things here. But yeah, as I said, part two will be released next week for the general listeners of you guys. But if you are desperate to listen to part two, check out on patreon.com/genuinechitchat, where you can pay as little as £1 a month and you will get access to full unsplit episodes of Genuine Chit-Chat, include several other ones, and also the Afterthoughts special show that myself and Megan do. But I'll give much more information about that towards the end. So hope you guys really enjoy this. Make sure you reach out to Tom and Luke and the rest of Royals saying how much you loved this conversation, and make sure you listen to their EP because it is genuinely brilliant. Anyway guys, enough from me. I bring you Royals. Welcome to Genuine Chit-Chat, where we have honest conversations with interesting people, and I'm your host, Mike Burton. And I am here today with Tom and Luke, and there's something that joins Tom and Luke together, apart from now knowing me, but it is actually the band Royals. So obviously you guys are both a part of it. Tom is more of a recent addition. So Luke, do you want to just vaguely tell us about Royals, and then we'll go from there?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having us on the show, first of all. Yeah, we're a band called Royals. We're a pop punk band based out of Southampton in the UK. There's five of us, obviously me and Tom are here, and then we've got another Tom, we've got an Alex and Will, that's who makes up the band, and yeah, we're just five guys who love music.
Wonderful. And so I want to ask, one of the first things that kind of comes to mind is with pop punk in itself, obviously there's so many great bands in pop punk, and it kind of had its heyday, but things come in and out of fashion in a sense, especially in the alternative scene. It goes so quickly, it changes and things. I think we all remember the post-hardcore days of sort of the mid-2000s. I know, Tom, you do, because you're in a couple of bands to do with that. Like, name a couple of the best band names. I remember them being hilarious for yours.
My previous bands, we had
the really old one, yeah, the post-hardcore band names. They're just my favourite thing about that genre.
My first band was This Is Atlantica, which had no absolute meaning other than the singer had a dream about a place called Atlantica. Then there was Seasons in Wreckage, Eden in Vain. It went on that way, yeah.
Amazing. So with pop punk in itself, obviously, I would say a few years ago it kind of had its big wave, and then it simmered down a little bit, and now it feels like it's having a bit of resurgence again, which is awesome, because I always find that I always want pop punk to come back in summer, because it's just one of the big sort of, they're very upbeat and things. So I want to ask you, Luke, so what made you start Royals? Obviously, because you've been in it from the start, so what kind of pushed that for you?
Yeah, man. So funnily enough, I was in like a metalcore band from about 2000. I don't even know when we started, but we broke up about 2015, and I kind of was speaking to somebody in the local music scene who wanted to start a pop punk band, and he was looking for a vocalist, and I'd only ever done the odd bit of vocals in my old band, but I was kind of up for it. So I started that with him, and it started going well until things started to fall apart, but I wasn't really ready to give it up. So I said, right, I'm going to carry this on. No one else wanted to carry it on. So I was like, right, I'm going to have to obviously do it under a different name. I'm going to have to find new people. And yeah, so it would have been around like sort of mid to end of 2018. I was like, right, okay, I need to like find some people. And yeah, I don't really know like how the transition from sort of metal to pop punk happened, but it was just kind of someone was looking for a vocalist, and I was probably just sick of my mum and dad saying they couldn't listen to my screechy music anymore because there was so much screaming in it. And I wanted to do something that kind of appealed to a wider audience. Obviously, you say, you know, pop punk kind of has come in its waves and sort of died down again, but overall it's probably got a big audience than sort of metal and you know, music with screaming in. But yeah, I think that was kind of the push, that, and just it kind of fell into place. Yeah, man, that's kind of how it all happened, really.
Yeah, and with you, sort of, Tom, I know that you've had, obviously you said you've been in sort of a lot of the post-hardcore background and hardcore and that sort of genre and things, but like, as long as I've known you, you've always been a big fan of pop punk. But have you been in any other pop punk bands before this?
No, I haven't. So that's the thing, is Luke obviously said that about why he went into pop punk, but for me, I was always the pop punk kid of the hardcore, like any band that I was in. So it was always like that one person in the band who prefers it, and that was always me. Funnily enough, we actually played together at a show like years and years ago and never spoke when Luke was in Gone By Tomorrow and I was in either Seasons or Eden in Vain.
Nice.
So that's weird, but
destined to be together from the start.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And how have you both like found, we'll start with you, Luke, then, with the transition from sort of the other bands that you've been in, what are some of the things that you like most about pop punk in a way, and what are some of the things that are different?
Yeah, so I think like one of the first things is just everything, not that being in a metal band wasn't fun, but everything's just a little bit more lighthearted and upbeat and just kind of, I mean, you feel that in the music anyway, but like, it's kind of like you say about pop punk kind of being like a summer thing. You want it to come back for the summer. It's like you can kind of wind the windows down on a summer day and blast some pop punk tunes and it's just good vibes. And you kind of just get that energy being in the band, like playing fun, upbeat songs you can kind of jump around to. You're not looking moody in every photo shoot. Like it's just kind of, I just like the sort of vibe overall. And it's kind of, I don't want to say it's a little less serious because we do take what we do seriously, but it does just feel a little bit more lighthearted. So that's kind of my thing.
And what about you, Tom? How do you feel of the differences?
Yeah, I much prefer. I mean, I was always in heavier bands because all my friends were in heavier bands. So they were like, that was the direct link to go into those bands. But I was always like, I'd love to play pop punk. So for the same reasons, really, like the vibes and stuff like that. Like there's so many practices or shows that we go to and I'd finish playing a really heavy set and I'd chuck my iPod on and straight away just chill out to like pop punk and stuff. So it's always come naturally to want to play that, I think. So there's definitely a difference there.
I think it's that, and you also wanted to just have to play like 4 root notes on the bass, so it was really easy for you.
I mean, I've always root noted. It's an easier root note.
It is one of those things with pop punk where it generally does have that more upbeat feel to it a lot more, and it does allow you to kind of, it has that silliness. And I think that what we were speaking about a bit before press record is sort of, obviously you've got quite a few videos out, especially for this release and whatnot, and I like that you guys always look like you're having fun in the right context, because you've got a couple more serious videos and you've got a couple more fun ones. And one of the ones I specifically quite enjoyed was the quarantine video and things. And if you just speak about the song itself, and then also what made you not wait for a music video? Why did you sort of want to put together a quarantine thing? And obviously this is before you, Tom, so sorry.
Yeah, I'll shut up.
Firstly, that video was just a lot of fun. So that's for our song Fair Weather Friend, which was, we went and recorded 2 singles with Seb Barlow at the end of 2019. And then as we were sort of prepping the releases and stuff, obviously COVID became a thing. We had just shot the first video for a song called Out of Reach, which is the single we released first. But as soon as we'd recorded that, about a week later, lockdown hit. So we were in a tricky position and was like, right, we don't know when this is going to be over. So it's like, okay, we need to shoot a video now, really, because we don't want to delay the release, or it's going to have to go out without a video. So the song itself is kind of about, it's called Fair Weather Friend. Kind of the meaning is in the title, really. It's, about shitty friends who fuck you over and, are only there when it's the good times and aren't there for you when you're down and stuff. So the video kind of has no meaning to that. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. It's so much fun. We were just like, right, let's shoot from home, everyone do a few different scenes, make it fun. We had Will, I mean, he always steals the show when it comes to comedy. He got like topless, put on like a swimming hat and some goggles, and literally like bombed it into like a lake. But the funniest thing was, if you watch the video, the lake was like about 2 feet deep. as he jumped in, he just hit his ass on the floor, and apparently it hurt a lot.
I think he actually showed me the uncut version of that, which isn't in the video, where you just hear him go, "Oh," afterwards.
Yeah. Literally. And what's funny about it is like, and all of us kind of experienced this, was when we were doing the shots outdoors or in like public locations, we literally had people walking past. So he had people walking past while he was playing guitar topless in a swimming hat and like jumping into a lake. I was trying to shoot like a shot just out on a field. There's a shot of me playing like an open field, and I went to this field like 3 days running, and it was always packed. So I got up at like 6 a.m., went there, and I was the first there. But as I'm recording and stuff, and I'm singing it by myself in the middle of the field, like loads of dog walkers are coming past, and it was so much fun. It was so much fun to shoot. And then I edited it all and put it together. And it, as much as it's a low budget video, it's fun, and it came out like a lot better than we could have imagined. And for anyone listening who has watched it or who is going to check it out, there was also a teaser we put out for the video where we basically did a video call, basically talking about how we couldn't shoot a music video and we were going to have to put this together. And the teaser video is probably funnier than the actual video. So
oh wow.
If you have the time, and I'm telling you to do this as well, Mike, if you have the time, go back and check it. It'll be on our Facebook and Instagram pages. It's a few minutes long, and it's a funny watch.
It is brilliant, and I love the when you say with Will steals the show, and I saw him. There's a part in there where he's using the weights, and then he's got like a bit of cardboard that's like a massive circle, and he writes really heavy weight on it, and he's looking at the camera like, yeah, and that's just that sort of thing. As soon as if you see that video and you don't have a smile on your face, there is something wrong with you, because it is just. It all works together so well. And keeping in line with music itself, you guys have obviously done, you've done the cover of Me by Taylor Swift and Brendan Urie. And I'm always interested by bands with their sort of, their views on covers in itself. So what made you want to do that cover out of interest? And I'll ask that first. What made you want to do that cover out of intrigue?
So, okay, we were at a point where we'd like just like recorded and put out our first EP, and we weren't quite ready to put out new music, but we were like, we basically said, we should do a cover at some point. You know, like a lot of pop punk bands will do a cover of a pop song and do it in like a pop punk sort of arrangement. And a lot of the time they do really well. Everyone loves a sort of pop goes punk cover, which I totally get. So the sort of plan with that song was we basically said to ourselves, right, we're going to wait for like the next big artist to drop a song. And we had the money set aside for studio time. And we were like, right, as soon as someone drops a song, we're just going to go and do it. Like, and to be honest, like, I don't regret doing it, but like, looking back, I probably wish we hadn't done that song, but it was like it dropped and I thought, holy shit, this is Taylor Swift and Brendan Urie. It's like two big names. This song has to blow up. So I was like, let's go and cover it. So it dropped, and like within 2 days I had it written, and like a day later we were in the studio recording it, and we managed to release the song within about 2 or 3 weeks of the original being released, which is incredibly quick for a cover to come out. A lot of bands will take a couple of, a month or two at least. And we managed to get in there before any other bigger bands did it. And it done okay. Like, and it's still our most streamed song on Spotify, so we cannot knock it at all. But there were some other songs that come out not long after that I kind of wish we'd done instead.
I can imagine that thing with covers, because as you say, one of the things that people I think don't understand when they're outside of knowing people who are in bands and things like that, or obviously in a band themselves, is that when you want to release a song that's a cover of something, most people don't have home studios, and so you can't just click your fingers and have a song released. It's quite a costly and also timely endeavor, and I think people don't really understand that aspect of it.
No, yeah, of course. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. You know, like, even though it's a cover and the song's rewritten, you still have to arrange it in your own way. So it's kind of like writing a song in itself, just without having to sort of arrange the chords and the lyrics. But so that takes time. And then you need to, either get into a studio or like I didn't have my home studio set up quite to the level it is now. So we did go elsewhere to record that because we record in-house now. But we managed to book that in quite quickly, luckily. And, even then it takes time to get that edited and mixed. And then once you've got the song, you still then have to like make sure you've got artwork. We shot a video for that. You have to like get all the distribution ready. There's all these other things that add on days or weeks. So to get a song out within a few weeks is pretty impressive, and kind of proud how quickly we've done that. But yeah, it can take time, which is why you don't normally see it happen so quickly.
I'll ask each of you this. What, in the whole songwriting process, from starting to say, right, we need to write a song, and then, each aspect of it all the way to release and playing it live, what is do you have a favourite point in a song? Because I know some people like changing it around and getting used to where it's going. Other people like practicing it before the first gig. What's your favourite thing? We'll go with Luke first.
Yeah, okay. That's such a tough one for me, because like songwriting and producing is kind of like, my thing. For me, like probably the best moment is normally getting the master version of the song back. So like once it's been mixed and mastered and getting that final version of the song and listening to it for the first time is normally like my favorite moment. But I do also really love, so like what like with our songwriting process, what will happen is like we'll normally write a song, we'll like demo it, and then when we come and like for example, the new songs, we come here and recorded them, I essentially take on like a producer role, and we'll do like the fine tweaks and like changing bits and kind of like adding those little final touches that take it from like, one level just to the next. And that's also a very, very favorite moment of mine. So it's kind of a tie up between those two parts in the process.
What about you, Tom?
It's interesting because I also had two, but they weren't either of those. So one of them is in the studio, like, as you say, we got the demo version. Once we've recorded over that with like the proper version, even before it's been mixed mastered, you play it back on the speakers and you just hear how different it sounds while you're in that moment. That's really cool. And then probably the first practice of it, like with a couple of the new tracks when we went into rehearsal recently, and it was like, okay, these are going to be the best two songs live now. Yeah.
That was so good. It was because we rehearsed, so we like hadn't rehearsed any of the new songs at all, any of like the three new tracks. So there's two that are out and then another one that's coming. We hadn't rehearsed them at all ever. So playing them and then realizing that two of them were probably like our best songs ever was a very nice moment.
I can imagine, because especially in the times that we're in, like sort of the live experience, obviously, at the moment is none. Obviously, we're starting to open up again. And over in England, over the lockdown, there's been sort of a tiny amounts and then disappeared again and things. And obviously, with songwriting a lot of the time and with just the band cycle, a lot of the time it's, write, record, release, and then you kind of tour with it and play shows with it and things while that's happening in front of the audience. Behind the scenes, you're getting all the other stuff cooking so that when the sort of in a really, really layman's way of putting it, almost once the momentum of one EP finishes and you've done the whole thing, you don't lose the momentum, you swing it all the way back in momentum back to the start, and you've already got all that sort of groundwork for it. So with not being able to play live, going back to just even practicing together must have been quite an interesting thing, especially with Tom being a newer member of the band. It must have been quite interesting to begin with, but I'm interested to hear how you both sort of felt about it.
Yeah, man. Tom, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, for me, obviously, I've basically technically practiced with these guys 3 times. That's my audition, the other Tom's audition, and then that time, like last month or whenever, and they're the 3 times. So for me, it hasn't felt too weird because that's all I've known. But I can imagine for the others, like being together as a 4-piece for quite a while and then bringing in 2 new people and stuff like that is a bit of a big change.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say it was weird. I'd definitely say it was exciting is the word I would use for it, because we, like as Tom said, we only practiced once for his audition and then again for other Tom's audition and then one time since. And that first proper practice with everybody and the new lineup was, although we were going to be a bit rusty because, I've not really like sung a full set in, nearly a year and a half. And everyone's in a similar position, we're going to be a bit rusty. It was still probably one of the best practice we'd ever had, because like with the new lineup, I feel we're stronger than ever, like in terms of our playing ability, and also the songs. I feel like they're like the newer songs are even better than our older songs. So like there was a lot of good things. Like, okay, we've got these new songs that are great. We've got these new members who are really great. And the morale is high. Like we're just buzzing. So it was really good and really exciting. And quite a bit different to like what rehearsals used to be like. So I'm excited to kind of continue that going forward.
And one thing that I was speaking to my brother yesterday, and he's been in bands as long as I've known him, and he's like 17 years older than me. So I've always been going to his gigs and things. And then me and Tom have got mutual friends who are in bands and things. You know, you get one friend who's in a band, and then you've got 20 friends in bands, and they all play together and things when things are open up and stuff. And one thing that he said yesterday, because he was talking about he's got a new drummer who's a pain, and we always having a joke because he can never get a sane drummer. He's like, all drummers in the world are insane, but a lot of them are good insane and crazy guys, but some of them are just a nightmare. But he was saying, with being in a band, it's so much more like a relationship than people really understand, because the amount of time you have to spend together, your baby in air quotes is the songs that you're releasing. So it must be quite interesting. I think the band dynamic, not only, like I think Rob said, it's my brother's name, he was like, he would basically take someone who's 30 or 40% less skilled if he can just get along with them and they're just a good person who merges with the band. So I wonder if you guys have any sort of comments on that.
Yeah, I can agree to that to some extent. Like, it's so important that you get on as friends as well as, you know, band members, you know, because you do spend a lot of time together. And Tom actually made a joke recently about how amazing it would be if we were in a relationship, because it would benefit the band so much. So I think he was just hitting on.
Yeah, I didn't say that as in the five of us should be in a relationship, specifically me and Luke. And I was saying how much that could benefit the band.
You know, imagine if we lived together in a relationship, we just was able to do band 24/7. But no, like it is, you spend a lot of time with each other. We're in like a group chat, like chatting most days, every day. You know, figuring out plans together, figuring out like when we're gonna like be available to gig and do this and do that and practice and everything. And you're basically always like under each other's toes. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to get along. It's like when you live with someone, right? You have to get on with someone you live with, or you're gonna hate it, right? So I kind of agree. If someone was like a little less skilled, but like the person who was like more skilled was a dick, like I'm obviously gonna take the nicer person. Now, we kind of got lucky, I feel, because, and I'm not just saying this to like, you know, lick their ass, but like Tom is a super nice guy and he's good at what he does. Like, not only good at playing bass, he is good at like graphic design, other little things that help the band. And then our drummer is incredible and he's also a lovely guy as well. So it's like, we've got two great guys who are also good at what they do and have some element outside of the music alone where they also add to the band. So we kind of like got all of these things included. It was like it's just like a special bundle deal. Thanks.
A Tom package.
Yeah, the full package.
And obviously, Tom, you've been in loads of bands. I've known you for a while, and you've just like our mutual friend Callum, like bands. You've been in. I'm not going to name any names specifically, but obviously you've been in bands that can be difficult to work with, and so it's just like, it must be quite refreshing now to be with like everyone who's basically just on the same page.
Yeah, that was one of like the first things I actually said to the guys was like, to have everyone pulling in the same direction is just something that I've never really experienced, and it just like, it was such an eye opener of how easy it could actually be, because even though it is hard work, you know, it makes it so much more hard work when there's one person that's not fully committed or pulling the other way or constantly saying you should go in another direction. And with Royals, it's literally like everyone always seems to agree on everything, and we all know we're all pushing in the same direction. So it definitely makes a massive difference.
That's so true. And do you know what, like off the back of that, it's like a lot of people, they may or may not know this, but a lot of people who aren't in bands might not know, like, you need to put in a lot of time, a lot of effort, financial investment as well, you know, and just overall commitment to so many different things. And you have to make sacrifices. Like, we sacrifice time out of our lives to do this. We sacrifice like money, and you know, in turn, that's sacrificing things we could be doing that we're not doing because we need to, like, you know, we need money to put towards recording or shooting a video or whatever. Because at the moment, you know, we're not a self-sufficient band. Like, we're still funding it at the moment. And when you've got somebody who isn't committed or doesn't ever have like their share of money to put in and things like that, which I've experienced before as well, it makes it extremely difficult and it completely kills the mood. Whereas, like Tom said, we just don't have that here. Everyone's like, if we're in a boat, we're all rowing. If we were in a boat and someone wasn't rowing, it's going to be slowing you down, right? So yeah, I think we've kind of got a bit lucky here, and hopefully it continues that way and things continue to pick up for us.
Yeah, it's always good to hear when you have bands that have that sort of element. There's too many bands, especially in the alternative scene, that have released amazing music, but one of the members was just a dick, and it just completely killed the band. You hear like rumours about it, and there just happens.
Yep.
I'm not naming names. Chiodos. Sorry. Say it. Sorry. I love Chiodos. They're one of my favourite bands. I saw Craig Owens live, and he had a hissy fit while I was there, telling my friend, I thought he was a dick. I thought he always had loads of drama about him, and I watched it happen. I was like, why? Why did I say something? So it's an upsetting thing with bands being like that.
It's annoying when, like, you know, you've got someone who's such a good singer as well, and yeah, then you just, you know, there's a few of them like that. They're just incredible singers and stuff, and then they're just absolute dicks. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like I never really like to say negative things about other creators or anything on the show, but not always. If Craig Owens comes up, I say it because I'm just like, I do not forgive them. I tweeted at them and they just delete my tweets and like take themselves out of the tags and things. I'm like, I just wanted you to say sorry.
Did they actually delete your tweet?
It was on there. It might have been a little while ago now. It was Slam Dunk. One of the Slam Dunk times where they were headline on one of them, and me and Kieran went. Tom knows Kieran, and yeah, we went, and it was the headline show. We saw them instead of like two other big bands. It was just me and Kieran wanted to see them. We were so excited. They cut their set half because someone threw a bottle, but like it was a plastic bottle, at Craig Owens while he was playing, and so he sat on the back of the speaker with his arms crossed. And the keyboardist, the keyboardist had to sing for like one or two songs. Then Craig Owens came down and said, "This is our last song," and they sung the last song, and they left like half an hour early. I mean, Kieran were like, "Been literally looking forward to this for like 6 years. You never come to the UK, and then that happens." And it's like, I don't like to shit on bands, like honestly, because some people have bad days, and I can understand that. It's just, I know the reputation that's had that. So, but moving on to some more positive things without me just complaining about a traumatic bad experience of my own.
Welcome to the Craig Owens podcast.
Exactly. I was going to say with the bands and things, what I love hearing about is sort of bands' musical tastes and whatnot. So what music are you into, Luke, and then Tom, and then we'll talk about the sort of, and how it kind of connects with the rest of the band, because it's always interesting, especially when you have a band who's in the alternative scene, all individuals tend to have elements they like from each genre kind of come together in interesting ways. So please talk about that. Yeah,
for sure. I think like we have very similar, but also like our own little differences in our music taste. So like for me personally, I used to be into a lot of metal and like sort of metalcore and heavier stuff. I did slightly start to grow out of that. And I don't know if that was just getting older or if it was because I ended up being in a pop punk band. I started listening to more pop punk, but it's a weird one because I kind of got into pop punk first. I grew up listening to, I say grew up, but like when I started getting into it, I was starting to listen to like, you know, Paramore and Blink and Fall Out Boy and All Time Low and sort of the pop punk in what would have been, I guess, like 2010, I guess. Around then.
Yeah.
I was about 15, I think. It was kind of sort of blowing up that. And then I got into like metal and was in a metal band for years and kind of ditched the pop punk scene a little bit. And then now for me, it's very, very like a wide range. I listen to a lot of pop punk, but then I listen to pop music. Not all of it, but a fair amount of it. I still listen to some heavier stuff, but I'm a bit more picky. And I'm kind of really, at the moment, I'm really digging. There's kind of this new wave of pop punk, which is like, kind of, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like the radio stuff where it's like pop punk, but it's like electronic beats and pop music sort of almost. So, you know, the likes of like Machine Gun Kelly and Mod Sun, and obviously Avril Lavigne's making a comeback, which is awesome. And sort of artists like that, I'm really digging at the moment because it's, I don't know, it's just bringing sort of pop punk back into the mainstream. So I'm kind of excited about that. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think we're pretty similar on the most part. I think Tom would agree.
Yeah, I was literally going to say, like, we did the Spotify thing where you compare each other's like listening habits and stuff. It was like a link, and me and Luke matched 99%.
Oh wow!
So you probably got the two worst people to get different answers on because we're so similar. But like, exactly that. I grew up with like, it went from Busted to then Sum 41 and Blink and all that stuff. And then it was weird because I got into heavier music because I found bands like A Day to Remember that were doing both. And I was like, oh, I actually kind of like that screamy bit. And then slowly delved into that world, but I never gave up on the pop punk side of things. That just always carried on. But I think with all of us in the band, you can definitely see there's different influences coming from different places. Like Luke Day listens to quite a lot of pop music, which probably helps write catchier songs. And then you've got Alex, who's doing Children of Bodom covers on Instagram and stuff like that, which helps when we might want to include some tricky guitar stuff. So there's definitely like a wide range.
I think like if you listen closely, it does come through. Like, we've had a few comments saying about like people have said like, oh, your vocals are quite like catchy and you like almost like pop melodies, and it's like, well, yeah, because for me it has to be catchy. At least I think it is, otherwise I wouldn't write it, and not everyone's going to agree. But for me, like, pop has catchy melodies, right? It's why it's popular, it's why it's on the radio, and you know, it gets stuck in your head, right? So I do kind of write pop melodies as much as I can, but with a bit of aggression in there for sort of pop punk. I like the sort of raspiness in people, like a lot of singers' voices, like punk singers. But then, like Tom's saying, with like Alex, he's shredding, he likes loads of like crazy metal and stuff. And that kind of comes across because we have some lead guitar parts that are kind of nuts for what we do. You wouldn't sort of see a lot of generic pop punk bands doing some of the stuff we have if you listen closely to a lot of the lead guitars. But yeah, on the most part, we're pretty similar. But those little flavors from each of us kind of add up to make the sound that we've got, I think.
Yeah, because when I listen to, especially some of your newer things, you've got the pop punk feel to it, and then there's these little moments that come in that are slightly more punky or slightly more poppy and things. There's quite a few times where it goes a little bit sort of synthy or electronic, but just for only like a couple of bars, and then it goes away. But that little moment, like, there's some of my favourite moments in some of the songs, and it's just this little. I find that a lot of the time is, as you say, because obviously with your experience and being, you know, producer and that sort of thing as well, and getting into that realm, you get to, it's the stuff that people may not even know they hear sometimes. Like sometimes when you listen to a song and you listen to it, you've been listening to it for ages, and you listen to it on maybe different speakers or headphones, and then you hear maybe some extra like backing vocals. I find like when you've got like a harmonies going on, you're like, how long has this been in the song? I thought I've loved this song for ages, but because there's all those levels, there's the parts of it that make the song better that you may not even consciously realize as well. So I think those elements that come into it work brilliantly.
Yeah. I think like as an artist and also, you know, producer, you know these things are here. So like for me, it's a bit of a like love-hate relationship, because whenever I listen to new music, I'm constantly listening with like a producer mindset, and I'm constantly judging. So it's like I'll either love a song even more because I'm like, holy shit, like those harmonies are awesome, or like I love that synth that they've layered in or whatever. But then there are times where I'm like, oh, this song would be so good, but they should have done this, or they should have done this, and it's a nightmare. Sometimes I have to try and switch off and just like listen like anybody would, like just, you know, casual listener. So I definitely do that a lot. But I think it's nice when people notice those things, because like we do put them in there for a reason, and a lot of it is subtle. The electronic stuff that we've started adding in the newer songs, there is actually at least one section in each of the new songs on this EP that are purely electronic and vocal. You know, you've got kind of like the first verse in Jaded is mostly just, there's one guitar part, but it's just mostly synth and vocal. And then you've got,
it's really fun.
Yes, yeah, it's really fun for Tom and Will. They play nothing. You know, and it's like that in all the songs. In Fairweather Friend, there's a sort of electronic-y, synthy bit of a breakdown. And it's, yeah, and I like that. That's because I like pop music. We like synth stuff, and a lot of pop punk music is kind of moving in that sort of direction where it's got that pop element, and it's more like polished than it used to be. And as much as I used to like love like the sort of more raw pop punk sound, I feel like nowadays if you go in with that sound, like you kind of get shot down quickly, because the standard is just so high. Everyone's expecting these like clean, polished songs with high end production, so you kind of have no choice really but to go down that route, I believe anyway.
Yeah, and it's interesting. One of the things I quite like about pop punk is how diverse it is, because all it's basically saying, pop punk, is there's some amount of pop in this and some amount of punk in this. And that is literally like, it can be any variety. Like you can get, you know, Wonder Years and Stories So Far and you guys all sound completely different, but you're all technically pop punk. But I know you get like the sub-genres like sad boy pop punk, like Real Friends and things like that. But like, you know, it's very interesting, because what I love about it as well is you get bands that even release albums. And I think Stories So Far and Wonder Years both did this as well, where they had a couple albums that were a bit more aggressive and things like that. And then they released albums that were a bit more chill in a sense, but that didn't, people weren't listening to it going, this is pop punk. It was more so like, no, this is just the parameters of pop punk are almost to your own will. It kind of works in the same way with like, you know, rock and punk obviously go hand in hand in a lot of ways too. And it's like when you can have the meshing of genres, you can appeal to so many different people in so many different ways. And that's one of the things I think I love about pop punk, you know?
Yeah, I'm the same, mate. I'm exactly the same. And I listen to a lot of that as well. Like I listen to The Story So Far, um, and Bit of Real Friends here and there, and Knuckle Puck, and some of those sort of like, they're kind of in the scene that I would kind of class as the slightly more punky side of pop punk, slightly more aggressive. The vocals are normally a lot more, I don't want to say shouty, but kind of more aggressive than sort of your sort of pop melody, sort of catchy pop melody style. And that doesn't make it any better or worse. It's just different. Whereas then on the other side of it, you have bands like sort of State Champs, which are probably my favorite bands, and like All Time Low, which are another favorite band of mine, where it's kind of more on the pop side of it. At least their newer stuff is anyway. So it's just so broad, and we want to kind of incorporate as much as possible because we do have this mixture of influence. And, when you take a song like Jaded, our latest song, like I say, you've got that synth bit in the first verse, but then we literally have a breakdown in that song, which is kind of one of the heavier moments on the EP. So we do try and like blend in as much as we can.
Yeah, and one of the things we'll say is we'll start to sort of blend into with the new releases and things. And as we go into that, I want to ask about sort of going into speaking about these releases and things. When did you write so you've got the 5 main songs. You've got Worldwide Catastrophe, Fair Weather Friend, Gone, which has not yet been released of recording this, but should be around the time of this being released, Jaded, which is the most recent one, and Out of Reach, which is the first release, I think. And so with those, obviously, I've heard all of them because Tom cheekily sent me a link a couple of days ago, so I've been loving Gone as well. I'm very excited. I think that Gone and Out of Reach might be my favourites. The first and the last always releases. I love them. So
I love that you've said that. So like I ordered the EP recently, like favourite to least favourite. And firstly, the good thing is I'm not just saying this because our song. I know I'm a bit biased, right? I genuinely don't feel like there's a bad song on here. Like, no. I don't really get on that well with our first EP anymore. I don't know if it's because we've grown, but like, I don't feel like there's a bad song. But secondly, my 2 favorite songs, so Gone is like my favorite and Out of Reach is like my second favorite. So like, it's cool to hear you say that as well. I just think, and I know people haven't heard Gone yet. And as you say, it should be out not too far apart from this, but I feel like that song, I'm hoping that song people are going to really get on with because I just don't know. It's just really catchy, man.
It is. Well, when Tom said it to me, I listened to it once through and I immediately messaged him. I was like, so when you're releasing Gone? He was like, oh, I think that's the last one. And I was like, that's my favourite. First listen, I was like, that's my favourite one of all of them. So I'm very excited for that to be released. But speaking of that, when you obviously mentioned about you released the 2 singles first, it was almost like you recorded the 2 and then you recorded the 3 in the sort of batches. When were you writing these, and did COVID affect your writing? Like, were they written a bit before, during? So how basically did the lockdown affect the writing and also the recording and how these songs kind of sounded?
Yeah, massively. It had a huge effect, but as much as there were some downs about it, it kind of brought about some good things. So Out of Reach was the first one to be written out of these songs. And I remember so when we recorded our first EP, Painted Gold, we recorded with a guy called Matt O'Grady. He's done like You Me at 6 and Def Havana and bands like that. And I remember showing him the demo. I had an instrumental demo for Out of Reach, and I remember him saying to me, he was like, write 10 songs like that and you'll have a banging album on your hands. And I was like, right, I need to write 10 songs like this. So that song was kind of written and finished not long after the first EP was released. Mm-hmm. So we're talking sort of mid 2019. And then Fair Weather Friend came pretty soon after that, and we went into the studio with Seb to record those at the end of 2019. So I think so. It's hard. The whole last year or so just mixed up my dates, but
I say that all the time. It's a hard question.
But yeah, so at the end of 2019, it was September, October time. We went and recorded those 2 with Seb, and at the time, the plan was to kind of do these 2 singles, and that was kind of all we had. And then as we started building up to the release, I was like, right, we should go and record another 3, even 2 maybe. I think it was 2 we agreed on, and do like a 4-track EP. But we booked in the time, and then lockdown hit. So we were meant to go back to the studio in April 2020, which was the same month that Out of Reach was due to be released. So it was going to be like, right, we're going to be recording these other songs, and then they're going to come out in a timely manner. So it's going to all be 6 weeks apart, and it was going to be all done throughout 2020. But because of the delay, it got pushed back to sort of like towards the middle end of the year, but then it got pushed back again. and by this point we'd put out both singles, and we were like, right, okay, well, what do we do? And then Lewis also left the band as well, our old bassist. So we're like, okay, so we need new people as well. So I then, after we realized it weren't going to happen, I then was like, right, I'm going to take it on board. I'm going to produce it. We're going to record it here, and then we'll get Seb to mix it. But we also agreed, because of the length and the gap between the first two singles and these, we were like, let's do an extra song. So COVID basically, one, delayed our releases, and then two, caused us to do an extra song because of it. And it also meant they were recorded slightly differently in different places, which then kind of affected the outcome. Like, if you listen to the CD, I don't feel like to the casual listener it's really noticeable, but for us, like, you can notice a slight difference in like the overall mix on the two older singles. It's subtle, but there is a difference. And then the next thing that was really affected was the writing for Jaded. So Jaded was the so actually, before I say that, I should say Worldwide Catastrophe was like the first of the new ones to be written. And that was written with Alex. Me and Alex wrote that here together. But then Gone and Jaded, I kind of had to do mostly alone because we weren't really meeting up. We weren't allowed to see each other. So I wrote Gone. I was really happy with that one. And then we had one song left. We had the instrumental for Jaded. And it became really stressful. COVID completely killed my motivation. I was like really down, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to finish this song. We had like a month till the studio, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to finish it. And it wasn't until about a week before we were due to actually record that I just about finished the lyrics for it, and the sort of the vocals. So it was very stressful. And it kind of, the reason it ended up coming about so quickly in the end was I literally was like, right, I'm going to write this about how I feel right now. And it was all about how I was feeling and like my mental health at the time. Like COVID had completely like killed my mood. I was like down and depressed, and that's why it's all based around mental health. And it's all about sort of what I was experiencing, and also what a lot of people are experiencing, kind of being trapped and isolated at home for the last, 6 months to a year. But yeah, that's the sort of story of how that all came about.
Yeah, and so connecting in with that is sort of, we'll say this part will be more so about sort of the new releases and the actual EP itself. And so we'll start with Jaded, as we just spoke about that. So obviously the video to Jaded, as of recording this right now, was the most recent one out, and you guys are in jumpsuits, and it's very powerful. And when I spoke to Tom before its release, he explained to me sort of how it had been put together, behind the scenes and things. He showed me some of the photos as well, which are a lot of fun. I know there's a bit of nudity on set that you don't get to see on camera either. So I thought you guys could talk about sort of not only the meaning of the video and how it connects with the meaning of your lyrics and whatnot, but also how it was actually recording the video with the guys and things.
Yeah, man. I'll talk a little bit about the meaning of the song, and then Tom can kind of take you behind the scenes on the sort of set. But kind of like what I said, it is all based around mental health. And when we decided that we was going to do a video for the song, which I don't think was the original plan. I don't know, is that right, Tom? We weren't going to, was we?
No, we weren't. We were going to do 2 videos for the first and last songs, but we were going to either do some sort of visualizer or just not do anything for Jaded.
Yeah, that's literally it, yeah. And then I think like because it was so meaningful and so powerful to me, like the message of the song, I was like, kind of want to do something more. Like we started talking about visualizers and lyric videos, and we were just like, I just want to do something full out and actually have a concept to this. And then it was like, right, okay, well, what can we do to kind of visualize this? Because I think it started with like, before we decided to do a video, we were talking about like doing like a visualizer of me just like sat on a sofa and then like speed ramp it, like loads of people moving around me. So I look all like, even though there's loads of people, you're just like lonely and isolated and depressed. And then it was kind of like, we can kind of fit that in a way. And we did the whole jumpsuit thing because we wanted to look kind of like, I guess, kind of like we were patients in some sort of like mental ward, like, that sort of thing. And we bought them all. I got the red one because we wanted it to match the artwork and for me to sort of be a little bit different, playing kind of my role. And then everyone else wore the white. And then we basically looked for a location that was kind of, we wanted to give off that kind of like plain white sort of hospital kind of feel almost, like, I guess, but like it didn't quite come off like that, but kind of did. And basically just give off this like this message and this like concept of being like trapped in your own head and like going kind of insane. So we had me kind of like scribbling out all the lyrics on this table like I'm going mad, and we had like sort of the tube of pills, which I guess kind of to resemble sort of medication and stuff. And we had it's a little very subtle thing, but we got like a clock that was behind me and behind some of the performance, which was kind of there it is, Tom. To resemble kind of like, we wanted to do something where the clock was spinning around really fast, so to resemble like time going by so quickly and like you just being stuck there, but it was kind of impossible to do that. So we kind of just left it there. And for anyone listening, there's a little bit of an Easter egg, which was we set the time to 5 to 6. So it was on the 11 and the 6, which is the 11th of June, which is our EP release date. So it's a little Easter egg. But yeah, we kind of did all these things, and then we wanted to match the artwork, which was red. So we made sure everything was red. We had the red flashing lights. And the idea behind that originally was going to be like this red flashing light was going to be like a siren going off in this mental ward, and we're like going nuts or whatever. But yeah, so I feel like we got across the message. If people watch the video, they kind of get that. It wasn't exactly how we planned, but we're so happy with how it did come out. Like, things always change. But I'll let kind of Tom take over from there and kind of say about how it was on the set and things.
Yeah, no, it definitely changed from what we planned, because I mean, we initially were looking, like Luke said, about plain white studios, and for something so simple to get the right effect, it was really hard to find, actually, and really expensive if you did find anywhere. So we ended up, it was actually a wedding venue that leave it blank so people can kind of do what they want with it, but that worked really well for us. But yeah, I mean, it was typical video shoot day, really. Got there fairly early and like where we're going all day. I mean, like you said, there was a bit of nudity, but that's just Will for you. There's never a time when you see Will and he's not at least thinking about getting naked at some point. Whether it happens or not is the gamble. But yeah, I mean, at the Worldwide Catastrophe shoot, he got into his boxers. I
have unreleased footage of that.
Yeah, and then this time at Jaded, he got fully naked but covered up. So I'm really we were quite dreading the next video, but fortunately we were so pushed for time that nothing like that happened.
We have to be so strict with him. We were like, we don't have time for you to mess about today. So it's like, we'll give you like 10 minutes. You can have an allocated 10 minutes, but you cannot mess out that, because it was a rush. But he's always like that. It's just him. And do you know what? Like, I love him for it. He's just so much fun. He, as much as he can be a nuisance at times, he's just fun. Like, you can't not like the guy for it. Like, you're just having a laugh, shooting a video, and all of a sudden you've got a butt naked man running about while you're filming. So it's fun. No, it's all good. But sorry to interrupt you, Tom.
That's fine. I was even just thinking of when we were recording, and we obviously had to go in one by one, and I'd been in the morning and done some bits and then left, and Will was there in the afternoon, and I just got sent this video from Luke into the band chat later on where he went to the toilet, walked back into the studio, and Will was just butt naked on his sofa in there.
Right, sorry. He catches you off guard. Like, you always think like he's going to do something, but like it doesn't happen. You think, oh, maybe he's grown up, and then it happens.
I mean, the good thing was that your wife didn't walk in there looking for you.
Imagine how funny. Oh, she would have been terrified. I'm telling you. He's done it. She's walked in and he's been doing something, and she's like, "Oh my god, what is happening?"
But I don't think there was too much, going on behind the scenes at the Jaded shoot. It was just like a really fun day, really. It was quite taxing because, sorry.
I was going to say there was one more fun thing. We had lots of snacks and tea and biscuits, and Tom, not this Tom, our drummer Tom, we had tea and biscuit break, and we were obviously like in our outfits we were shooting, and he has spilt tea down the front of his white jumpsuit. So he actually then had to share jumpsuits. Was it with you or Alex?
Yeah.
Yeah. Alex got his dirty as well on the floor. I'm pretty sure there was like sharing one sweaty jumpsuit between like two or three of them.
Well, the worst thing about the coffee that he spilled was that there was no it wasn't like he tripped up or someone made him jump or anything. We were stood in a circle, socially distanced, just having a chat. And the next thing you know, he's just literally tipped it down himself. And we're like, what are you doing? He's just got this brown coffee stain down the front of his nice white jumpsuit. Oh. Fortunately, we'd done all the band shots by then, so we could share. But otherwise, yeah, we would have had to do something. And then, I think Alex's, he was trying to take his jumpsuit off without taking his shoes off. So sort of rubbed it along the floor quite a bit. And yeah, we ended up sharing one nice sweaty jumpsuit.
It was a long day though. One of the longer shoots. Like those two shoots for that and Worldwide Catastrophe were two long shoots. Like we're talking like 12-hour days. Like they were really long. But Ollie, who shot Ollie Duncanson, shot both of those videos and the video for Gone, which will be coming out soon. He's a legend. He's a workhorse. He just gets it done. Has a laugh. Easy to work with. So big shout out to him because he's kind of smashed the videos.
What impresses me most is like he will not rest until he's got the right shot, and like that's why it takes so long, but it's so worth it. Like, yes, it's a long day, but the outcome, you can just see the amount of work that's gone into it.
Yeah, because I for a little while I made a few music videos it was after college. I've always had some vague creative outlet, a YouTube show, podcasts, music videos. As one of those things, the only reason I didn't continue on with it was because when you've got the finished product after you spent hours and hours doing the music video, it is so good. And it's just like, there's nothing quite like it from me, because obviously I've not released music or anything. So I was like, this visual, thing, it works with the music and all that sort of stuff. But the amount of shots you need to get and the amount of time and the painstaking seconds of obviously, because you said you made the quarantine video for, so was it Fairweather Friend? Sorry, the quarantine video?
Yeah, Fairweather Friend.
Yeah. So you obviously made that, and so you know that when you, even something like that, you still have to be very specific with the timings of the editing.
Yeah, it's so time consuming. Like I shoot I don't do them as often as I like to, but I have a YouTube channel where I do Pop Goes Punk covers, and even something as simple as that, like the amount of time it takes me to do those, just to film and edit those, and I only do like a handful of shots here, cause just sort of in my bedroom, in my studio. Sorry, it's so time consuming because you have to go in, you have to line up all the videos, and then you have to go through and decipher which bits you're going to use. Like you have this couple of seconds to fill of a certain shot, and you've got X amount of videos to go through and be like, okay, no, that's that bit, right? Okay, next bit, that's that bit. Is it in time? Make sure it's all aligned and things. So it's time consuming. Getting the shots and doing the video, that's a day's work, and then editing it. So, big shout out to everyone who does that, because it's a lot of hard work, and there's a lot of talented, creative people out there.
Yeah, it is a very time-consuming endeavour, and yeah, there's so many videos now that just look incredible. And so speaking of your music videos then, we'll speak about Worldwide Catastrophe. So if we speak about the song itself, so that was actually the third release of yours of this, because obviously you had Out of Reach and then Fairweather Friend. So with Worldwide Catastrophe, that was obviously, once again, with Tom and whatnot. So the theme of the song itself, though, let's go with that, then we'll go into the video a little bit. So Worldwide Catastrophe, what's that sort of meaning and what kind of came about with those lyrics?
Yeah, that's another big one. This one, this is a fun one really, and kind of breaks a lot of people's expectations.
And that's the end of part 1. Thanks as always for tuning in, guys. As I said at the start, part 2 will be out next Sunday, and if you can't wait that long, then check over patreon.com/genuine chit-chat. Donate as little as £1 a month and you'll get access to this and loads of other cool stuff as well. And also, if you still can't wait, make sure you check out everything about Royals in their social media and on their website. Check out their music on Spotify and also their custom Spotify playlist, because there's an incredible amount of great music in there. It's really good if you want to widen the music of pop punk parameters, especially for when summer arises, because that is the top time I love listening to pop punk. As a little preview, in part 2 of the chat, we discussed the video and song meaning behind Worldwide Catastrophe, their anticipation for future live shows, the future of the band, the songwriting process, the general theme for the Spark to Ignite EP, interactions with their fan base, toxic positivity, and many other topics as well. So make sure you subscribe to Genuine Chit-Chat or just show up again in a week's time to listen. Aside from that, what we've got coming up over the next few weeks, we have got a conversation recorded with a gentleman named Tom Everett, who's an actor who's been on the show before, and we speak about stagecraft, morality, and a few other bits and pieces there. That's going to be a 2-parter, so that'll be released a little bit further down the line. I have got a conversation due for recording next week with a person who's been podcasting for about 14 years, so that's a really, really cool chat. I can't wait to chat with that individual. I've also got another 2-parter, which I'll probably end up releasing actually in one big go, which is with a gentleman named Michael McCormick. He did a lot of the puppet work for Dark Crystal and did loads of the puppet work for Labyrinth, as well as a lot of the aesthetics and things. He also created the little creature in Jabba's palace in episode 6 of Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, which is called Salacious Crumb. He created that puppet as well, did a lot of the puppet work in Jabba's palace too. So really excited to release that, and I've got video of that as well, because he shows me a lot of the puppets and things he uses for certain things. There's even one he holds, which was on screen for Labyrinth, which is really, really cool. So I'll probably be releasing that on on YouTube, so you can see the video with it as well, so people can get the full experience. But that's really it for the time being. I've obviously got stuff in the pipeline, as I always do. You can check out my Star Wars show on the feed of Comics in Motion. Every Saturday I'll release an episode about Star Wars comics. I specifically talk about the narrative in a way that if you've never read a single Star Wars comic in your life, you can still understand everything that's going on. I go through the narrative in sort of footnote details. I explain the connections of other stuff, give more information about certain characters, certain or caveats of information and trivia and things like that. And also I'm starting to widen the berth a little bit as well, where I'm doing more ongoing series. I'm going to be tackling some of the new stuff that's going on, like with the War of the Bounty Hunters massive crossover event with like 34 issues. I'm going to be tackling that soon as well. So make sure you go over to Comics in Motion. There's loads of other cool nerdy stuff over there too. There's a different show every day of the week. There's Superheroes for Dummies, so people can learn about superheroes and a lot more of the superheroes. There's people like Spider-Man, Batman, but then there's some more obscure people like Plastic Man and things like that. There's also loads of other great shows as well. Any variation of the amount you like superhero stuff, comic stuff, nerdy stuff. There's TV and movie shows. There's a discussion show. There's an indie comic show. There's a classic comic show of the golden age of comics, which is from like the 40s to the 60s. There's loads of really, really great stuff there. So make sure you check out Comics in Motion. Anywhere you're listening to this, you should be able to find it. Aside from that, guys, I'd say Patreon is the only other thing. So patreon.com/genuine chit-chat. You'll get access to this whole pop punk interview in one full unsplit go, as well as about 6 or 7 of the last Genuine Chit-Chat episodes that I've split in half. The full episodes unsplit are released on the feed as well. And also I do the Afterthoughts show with Megan, where we talk about, for about 10 to 20 minutes usually, we speak about TV series we've watched, movies we've watched recently. We're trying to watch some more movies as well, so we're trying to put some new things in there as well as some old stuff, and any of the new things we don't spoil anyway. But if you want even more of my voice, you like hearing the banter that myself and my girlfriend Megan have, because she pops up in a few episodes here and there too. And if you really want to support the show, you can do it for as little as £1 a month. So it would mean the absolute world to me. Genuinely, anytime someone becomes a new patron, it generally means so much, and I just thank everyone who's been doing that. And yeah, I just want to say you can go over there and check it out, and even if you don't want to contribute any money, you can listen to 2 episodes completely for free on there, which is our review of The Witcher Season 1, no spoilers in that, and then also Star Wars The Phantom Menace. So make sure you go check that out even if you don't want to contribute financially. And if you don't want to check those out and you still want to help out the show, review on whatever you're listening to this on, Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or anywhere like that. Leave a review, tell people what you think of the show, spread it on social media, and tell your friends just about this interview, about the many other musical interviews I've done and stuff as well. And if you want to find other musical interviews and things and you don't want to have to trudge through the entirety of the catalogue, go over to YouTube, and I've put everything in playlists. There's music and band related stuff, there's science ones, there's religion spirituality ones, there's all kinds of different things there. So I've split them into genres there, nice and easy, so you can go over there, check them out on YouTube, and then wherever you listen to podcasts normally, you can find it on the podcast app. So that's about it from me, guys. Thank you as always for listening. I really appreciate it. Make sure you give Royals all the love you possibly can, because their EP is excellent and I can't wait for it all to be out so I can listen to it in its entirety on Spotify. And yeah, thanks as always for listening, guys. I hope you have a good time, and yeah, I'll speak to you next week.